Smile, I've told you about Christian Nock, and discovered Christian through Sylvia, who's one of our people who just there all of the time is Sylvia. He's an ex-soldier who's homeless and has embarked on a 7,000-mile walk around the coastline of Britain to raise awareness of homeless servicemen and women, and to raise money for Help for Heroes, because he's heightening the awareness of the homeless, because he's sleeping every night, rough basically, although people are being very, very kind and lending them their garages and whatever. Anyway, he started the walk in Blackpool on the 8th of August last year, and he's been going for 412 days now. He's travelled 5,000 miles, and he is in Betty Hill, which is on the north coast of Scotland, and joins me on the line now. Good to talk to you, Christian.
Good morning, Janice. Good morning to the listeners.
Are you all right?
Yes, I'm really good, thank you.
Jolly good, and I gather you put it on your Facebook, so we've got a whole load more people tuned in.
Probably not as many listeners as I've probably not got as many followers as you have. But yeah,
come on. No, it's fantastic what you're doing. So tell me why it happened.
Well, sort of the end of 2011, beginning of 2012, I completely lost faith in everything. I've come very close to committing suicide. My business didn't work out that I had at the time, and became homeless. And thought, well, if I'm going to be homeless, I'm not going to sleep in the same shop doorway night after night. I'll sleep in a different shop doorway night after night and raise a little bit of money for Help for Heroes. Now, when I first set out, I set my target initially to raise £10,000. As you said, I'm now on day 412. And with gift aid, I've now got £120,000.
I know.
It's took off in a way I could never have imagined. I've made, so many friends. It's rekindled my faith in human kindness. And when I first started up, I did sleep in shop doorways, barns, stables, sheds, shelters. Was on the minimum kit. Was foraging, scrounging, and living on the breadline. But over the last 4 or 5 months, as I said, it's took off in a way I couldn't imagine. And, it's just the people of Britain have just completely rekindled my faith in it's brilliant what's happened.
That's fantastic. But why were you in that situation in the first place? Why was there no help for you?
Well, what happened was I had a small business. I had a B&B in Blackpool that just didn't work out. And while I was self-employed for the 3 or 4 years, operating at a loss, I didn't pay my national insurance stamp. And because I didn't pay my national insurance stamp, when I did come to claim job seekers allowance when I needed it, I was told I wasn't entitled to it because I hadn't paid my national insurance contributions, despite paying it religiously for 19 years. And it just left me in a complete mess, a complete quandary. I was just so in debt, it was unreal. And that's what left me in that mess.
And there was no other alternative?
Well, the other alternative really was, as I said, I was depressed.
Oh.
And it just complete mess. My life was a complete mess. I'd lost everything and didn't know what to do and which way to go.
So tell me about the day that you decided to leave Blackpool and you'd start walking. What did you have on your back?
Well, it actually started at the end of 2011, beginning of 2012.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wasn't fit enough to do it. So I spent 7 months training, and all I did was walk up and down Britain's canal towpaths for 7 months, getting fit and learning, because I'd never been homeless before, apart from the odd occasion when sort of an ex had kicked me out for the night or something. But apart from that, I'd never actually lived on the streets before. It's a tough old world out there, and it's something that's completely opened my eyes. I have now, met so many homeless people. They come from all walks of lives, and honestly, it could happen to anybody.
Well, I've always said, and, I know people who go, oh, I don't give, and I always think, hey, hang on a minute there, but for the grace of God, you don't know what's going to happen. It could be a death, it could be an illness, whatever, and you flip, you go. But so you
one of the last guys I actually slept with, well, I shouldn't say that. One of the last guys I actually slept with that was homeless, I shared a multi-storey car park with him.
Yeah.
He was a 17-year-old boy. And he was on the streets purely and simply because his stepfather was violent towards him, and that's the reason why he chose to sleep outdoors on the streets rather than be in. Yeah, and I've met now in the 5,000 miles I've walked, I've met guys like myself that have lost a business, two young men like that, who finds it safer to be on the streets rather than be in the environment that they grew up in.
Well, let's move on, and you tell us about your travels, because you trained on the towpaths, you walked up and down, you got fit, and
Yep.
the day you left Blackpool, as I said to you, what did you have on your back? Was it a rucksack with a few bits and pieces, or what?
Yeah, no, I had a rucksack with a very bare minimum.
Yeah.
I set off with a very bare minimum. I mean, when I first started, I was literally living under a sheet of canvas, living on, well, nothing really, to be honest. I was living on a diet of pasta and porridge for the first 4, 5, 6 months. And then after that sort of period, it sort of, because of social media network and all that, it took off to a way I couldn't have imagined. Now, when I first set out, I initially set my target to raise £10,000 for Help the Heroes. I wanted to raise money for Help Heroes. Now, there was a couple of reasons that inspired me to do this, rather than... I was watching on TV while I was at the depths of depression, and I was inspired by the young para who'd lost his legs called Ben Parkinson.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, my life's not great at the moment, but look at this chap, he's managing to do this despite losing his legs. And I was also watching at the time on television a programme called Coast.
Oh, yes.
Now, I'm not from Blackpool. I'm from the Midlands originally.
Whereabouts?
I'm from Lichfield in Staffordshire.
I know, yeah.
You do, you know it?
Yeah.
Not many people do. You've been about, Janice. And so I wondered if, has anyone ever walked the entire coast of Great Britain? I was a little bit gutted when I found out the first guy to have done it on record was a guy called John Morrill in 1978. But then I discovered, when I looked even more in depth, that no one's ever walked it properly, i.e., up and down every single river and estuary, not used a ferry, done a lap of every single island attached to the mainland via a bridge, and slept rough every single night. And because I've been let down by the system, and I have been offered hotels, B&Bs, and people's bedrooms or spare bedrooms to sleep in, I've always knocked them back, basically to prove a point that this is why I'm doing it. Because I got left into a situation. And I want to do it to raise awareness for homelessness, because, and there is a big stigma with the homeless in Britain, that everyone thinks that they're just, just a waste of time, and it's not the case. There's so many walks of life out there in Britain, and it's not through choice, trust me.
No, I know it's not. And in fact, Sylvia, who, put me in touch with you, you actually stayed with her on day 352 in her garage. So you've done that.
I didn't sleep in her garage. I slept in her neighbour's garage.
Oh, the neighbour's garage.
I slept in her neighbour's garage. Fantastic lady.
Yeah.
Really down to earth. And we've just become ever such good friends. In fact, and then funny enough, when I was in Edinburgh, only a week or so later, then I bumped into her on the night of the tattoo.
Oh, Edinburgh. Right. Yeah, she gets about, Sylvia. What about things like, you've got Facebook, so do you go into internet cafes, or do you...
One of my biggest nightmares on this journey, because I'm documenting it and because I want to share it with the world, my biggest nightmare is electricity. So I spend a lot of times in pubs, cafes, libraries, just charging my phone or simply pinching Wi-Fi. I've documented the entire journey through Facebook. I do take a picture at least every half a mile to prove where I am, so no one can say I jumped on a bus or I got a train or I got a lift here or there, everywhere. I have walked every single step of the way of the entire coast of Great Britain since I started on the 8th of August last year. And I've been documenting it, but as I said, my biggest nightmare is electricity, so I need to be in a pub or somewhere or someone's house to charge my phone to be able to continue.
And what about stuff like washing and, your body and your clothes and shoe leather, things like that?
Well, when I first started, it wasn't unheard of for me to go without a shower for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
The most important thing for me was to keep my feet clean, because my feet was obviously, that was the bread and butter of this journey. But yeah, I used to smell like a cowboy. I used to smell and stink like a wet campfire at times. but as long as my feet were clean, everything was fine. And when I first started, as I said, it was hard. But now, because it's took off in a way I couldn't have imagined, I've now got offers of people wanting to, put my pants in an incinerator and stuff. And, it's, and a lot of people out there. And as I said, when I first started, I sort of lost faith in the system. I'd lost faith in humanity. I'd lost faith in everything. But since starting this journey,
it's restored your faith.
It's completely rekindled my faith.
I can imagine.
Humanity. Yeah, and the goodness I've met. In fact, I'm actually now sleeping in a shed outside the back of a couple's house. The guy who I'm staying with, Ross, and his wife Lorraine, he's an ex-soldier himself, and they've offered me a bed in the house, but I won't accept it, as I never do.
Well, we must say hello to
Ross. Been fantastic.
Ross and Lorraine, thank you very, very much indeed. Just tell us about some of the most amazing sights that you've seen and also the extremes of weather, because, before we had our short but very hot summer, wasn't particularly good necessarily.
I couldn't have chose a worse year to start. I began, as you said, on the 8th of August last year. And from September to, say, sort of January, all it did was rain.
Yeah.
It was the wettest year on record for 100 years.
Yeah.
I can only vouch for 39 of them. but I was knee-deep in floods. I was on the southwest coastal path when people's furniture were floating around in their living rooms, and they didn't care about the homeless dude that was walking around Britain raising money for help for heroes. And then from sort of February to March, I was on the southeast coast, sort of eastbourne, knee-deep in blizzards. And then I've had a fantastic summer. Now, it was sort of hard to differentiate because sometimes over the last few weeks in that hot summer was perhaps sometimes harder than when I was in the blizzards and the rain. Because when I'm walking and I carry so much kit, it was hot, it was hard, there was no shade, there was no wind, no breeze, nothing to cool me down, and it was hard work on that coast through the real peak of the summer. And when I was drinking my water out my backpack, it was like 18 degrees warm, and it wasn't very refreshing at the time.
No.
But the last 4, 5, 6 weeks has just been perfect walking conditions, to be honest.
And you're going to finish in Blackpool. When do you think that will be?
I wish I knew that. No day's the same.
It must be really interesting in some ways, because do you not think that you're going to find it hard to settle into some kind of normal routine when you finish this?
Well, a few of my friends have actually said, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Crocodile Dundee?
Yep.
Do you know the Crocodile Dundee one where the reporter girl sorts him out a posh hotel?
Yeah.
And then comes in the morning, and he's lying. He's not in the bed. He's lying on the floor next to the bed.
Yeah.
Well, that's what my mates reckons are going to happen to me.
And you might not end up being in Blackpool. You might decide that you're going to go back to Betty Hill or wherever it is.
I'll tell you what, it's on the cards. If you saw the view I've got right now.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I would, yeah, absolutely.
Look, it's an absolute pleasure talking to you, Christian.
No, thank you very much for having me on, Janice.
No, what I want to say is it's Christian Nock, and that's Nock, and you can go to Christian's website, which is christianaroundbritain.co.uk, or also the Help for Heroes website as well. That's right,
Thanks very much for having. That's correct, yeah. I've documented the entire journey on Facebook. I write a blog every single day of what day it is, where I've gone from, where I've gone to, and the events of that day. I also take a pictograph every single half a mile to prove where I am. I've now uploaded sort of over 12,000 pictures.
It's all there for people to see.
It is, yeah. And if you want to come and join me on this journey, please do.
Oh, that's fantastic. And if you're ever passing my neck of the woods, so that could be Liverpool, Birmingham or London, let me know.
Well, I've done Liverpool.
Have you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. And have you done Birmingham?
Well, that's on the coast up.
No, it's not, but, you could come in for a bit, couldn't you?
Whereabouts in Birmingham?
All over, Moseley mainly. But,
Moseley.
I've got mates all over.
I bet you have.
So if you decide that you're going, oh, hang on, I'm going to extend this and come inland. Do the canals.
I did the canals. my father was born in Zimbabwe, and my mum's a Brummie.
All right, okay.
She's from Shardend.
Oh, right, okay, I know. Hey, look, good luck, and thank you very much indeed. You take care.
And you, sweet. Good night.
Fantastic
Thank you.
what you're doing. Bye-bye.
Good night to all the listeners.
All right, cheers, Christian.
Good night.
6'6", he stood on the ground. He weighed 235 pounds, but I saw that giant of a man brought down to his knees by love.